So the array.filter method takes a function, right? And based on that function, it's going to act upon your array and then return a new array to you. So map returns an array, filter returns an array, all right? But reduce could return anything, any kind of value, depending on what you implement in your function, all right? Let's take note of that. So we want to filter out every odd number from this array. Every odd number, I want to filter it out from this array. So I'm going to change this to filter, and the function I'll call it remove odd numbers. So this works like map in terms of what it receives. It's going to receive the current value and the index, all right? But I'm not sure we're going to make use of index, so we'll make use of just current value. But you can actually just create a parameter to accommodate that, all right? So what we do here is we would say that if the current value is, so if the current value modulo 2, all right, modulo is like division, but it's going to return the remainder, all right? If current value modulo 2 is equal to 0, all right, then return current value. That's the current value. Okay, so we don't need this in it because filter doesn't make use of that. All right, so if let me change this to even scores. All right, save and check. We're going to see we have just 2 and 4. All right, just 2 and 4. And remember, if this seems too confusing, you can remove the function from there, put it outside to live on its own, and then just reference it. Functions are passed by reference, so by putting this here, you're simply referencing this function. All right, so hopefully I think this should be making more sense. All right, so you see, by reason of use, it begins to make sense. All right, so the best way to learn is to get your hands dirty and practice. All right, it begins to make sense. So we have this function here, and we are passing it into the filter method. All right, and that filter method, we're calling it on this scores array. Okay, so that scores the filter, we're passing this function, and in that function, we actually know that filter is going to pass 2 arguments into any function we give to it, right? So it's going to pass, I think it ought to be more than 2, or is it just 2? Yeah, it is more than 2 actually, but we rarely use the third. Okay, so you can go and read more about it. All right, so we could even say, all right, well, we're not obligated to use all of them, so we'll just use the first one, or we could simply ignore the ones we are not using and support just the first item. All right, so we know filter is going to pass some arguments into whatever function we give it, but we're only interested in the first one, which is going to be the current item. Okay, filter also iterates through the array that you provide, all right, and runs this function for every item in the array. So during the first iteration, it's going to run the function, which is this function, and it's going to check if the current value that was passed into it is, divisible by 2. And if it's divisible by 2, we return that current value to the new array that we are going to return. All right, it works just like this. So you see the mapping, there's a new array here, all right, and then it checks if, all right, then it pushes whatever passes the condition that we give, it will push it to the new array. Okay, so the new array is there, and at the end of the iteration, the new array is going to be returned. All right, so the second time we check again, is current value the second time is going to be 2. All right, the first time I'm sure it failed, so 1 will not be returned to the new array. The second time is going to pass because 2 is divisible by 2, and this passes, so it will return 2 to our new array. 3 is not going to pass because it's not divisible by 2. 4 is going to pass, 5 is not going to pass. So we have 2 and 4 as the only items that was pushed to the new array. So that's why you see that we have 2 and 4 here. All right. So if that's not as clear, we can even attempt to create our own filter method. So I'm going to copy this, put it here, and call it filter v2. All right. So it takes an array and takes a function. Okay. Let me call this FANC. Okay. Takes a function, and then we have a new array here. We run our function here, passing in the value, so we can even ignore this. So we'll pass in the current item in the iteration into the function, and the result is going to be pushed to the new array. All right, so this is it. So what we'll do is, in this case, we're going to call filter v2, okay, and pass in remove odd numbers into it, and then this is our own version, so we pass in our array, all right, as an argument. Okay, so I save and check. So we have undefined 2, undefined 4. All right, so where is that undefined coming from? Where is the undefined coming from? So it's coming from here. Okay, it's coming from here. So how do we make it clean? How do we make it clean? So the error is coming from, so what we'll do is push. So before we push, right, we're going to do a check. All right, so before we push, we're going to do a check. So I'll copy this function out, all right, and we'll say if we call the function, all right, on the current item and it returns something, okay, only then do we want to push. Okay, so I'll put it here, save, and everything should work fine. So you have 2 and 4 printed. Okay, so these are a rough implementation of the filter method that comes built into JavaScript. All right. So this is just so that you see what's happening behind the scenes, what we call the filter method on an array. Okay. So this is very simple logic. If you look at it very well, you can be able to break it down into the things we have discussed. We have discussed loops, we have discussed conditionals, we have discussed array.push, and we have also discussed the fact that functions return values. All right. They could either return a value or return undefined. So in this case, we are saying if this function returns a value, all right, then push that value to the new array, or else don't do anything, just ignore. Okay, so that's what's happening there. If you want to make it neater, you could also do um, let current value equals this, and then you say if current value, all right, so this is going to resolve if this is an actual value, all right, is this going to resolve to true. So if current value, then push that current value, all right, to the new array. So this still works. Okay. Yep. So that is it. I'm going to get this function and put it here, and let's go back to filter. Okay, array.filter. All right, and that should still work. So you see, that's it. So we've succeeded in discussing these three methods that comes with arrays: filter, map, and reduce. Okay, so I hope that you are able to understand. If you don't, if it seems to be confusing, you repeat the videos, read other articles, and it should make more sense. All right. Now, in summary, filter and map would return a new array. Filter and map will return a new array, but reduce can return anything you want. All right, reduce is very powerful, very, very powerful. All right, so, all right, guys. So this is where we end the video for this class, and in the next video, we're going to talk about destructuring, object destructuring, and the spread operator. So see you in the next video.